Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, folks. Just to let you guys know, we had a little issue with the scheduling of the recording of this week's podcast, so we decided to push the Andre the Giant to a different week, and we had a couple of these banked, so we decided to go with one of these saved ones we had. So enjoy the surprise episode of Wolverine Gambit, which is a wonderful 90s story starring Wolverine and Gambit. So enjoy that episode, and we promise we will get to the Andre the Giant episode in a couple weeks. So with that being said, we hope you enjoy this one. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today we are reading...
Snick.
And, hello, Shaq.
Hello, Shaq.
I was trying to figure out what it sounds like when he charges a card. I don't know. But we're reading X-Men Wolverine / Gambit by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, who is one of our favorite creator teams.
Definitely, yeah. They're solidified on our podcast for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is the team that wrote not the Killing Joke. What am I talking about? The Long Halloween, and also a bunch of the Long Halloween books like Dark Victory and Haunted Night, which we have not read yet. So those are definitely on the list. And then what else did they write together that we read? I can't remember. There was something else that I thought we read that either that or we just really liked Long Halloween. I can't remember.
No, I feel like there was another one. I'm blanking now.
Well, Jeff Loeb wrote Hush, so
it's
maybe
early.
that's why too. Yeah, it is early. We always record early. So, but yeah,
I'm still in the middle of my coffee, so if I have to come around to be like, oh yeah, that's who that was, that's why.
Yeah, but anyway, this is like the perfect '90s X-Men book for. This is what I remember the '90s being like. In a nutshell, to me,
this legitimately felt like a 2-episode story arc on the if you were watching the old cartoon.
Yes,
and it's that '90s like art style as far as Tim Sale is.
Well, yeah, it's not the '90s art style that you're thinking of.
No, but
it is '90s Tim Sale. Yes, the costumes, what they look like.
No, this is way better than any '90s art. Let me rephrase. Tim Sale is a fantastic artist.
Yes.
And he does not, it's not like pockets on pockets and patches and satchels and weird muscles everywhere and whatnot.
No, he does his Tim Sale thing, which I appreciate.
They look good, is what we're trying to say.
Yes, they look good. He does the model, obviously, that like Jim Lee came up with, or I think it was Jim Lee that created Gambit, and the Wolverine suit from that run as well. But this is like a story I never heard of. Apparently, it was just like a little special four-issue miniseries that they released. And I don't know what it's in context to or what came around this at all, but it definitely feels like it was probably around 94, 95. I think it's before Feral Wolverine. Must be just before that because they keep talking about Wolverine going, beast.
Yeah, he has to hold back the savage.
The savage within him. And so, there's just a lot of that, and everybody's kind of like iffy on whether Wolverine is like all there or not too. So it's kind of like a weird thing. So I don't know if this is just before I guess it's Age of Apocalypse where he like gets everything feraled out or whatever. I think that's what it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I can't. I get my events mixed up.
If only you were stronger on Marvel history as well.
Oh yeah. Maybe I'll go back and read every '90s Marvel book. I will not do that. So this, like I said, miniseries, 4 issues long, and it was a hell of a fun ride. And so we'll just get started right off the top. The premise of this book is that there are. It's in London, and it takes place in the area known as Whitechapel. You might remember that as the place where Jack the Ripper killed women in the 1890s, I think, or something like that. 1880s, 90s, around there. And then nowadays, I guess in the 90s, it's happening again.
Bum, bum, bum.
Women are being slashed by long knives of some sort. specifically 6 long knives. And so yeah, we went through this because just like a 90s book, it has good art. It has a story that is readable and fun, and then when you try to like actually recall exactly make sense of what happened in the story, it doesn't quite fit together in the perfect puzzle that you would like, but you had fun reading it. So that's kind of what a 90s book to me means. Like, it doesn't quite all make sense, but I'm willing to go with it because I had a blast reading it.
Exactly.
So in this, like the first panel, the first real panel they show you is like a woman in an alley and she's about to be killed, and you see Wolverine's shadow about to stab her.
Yeah, like standing over her.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know why Wolverine is here. They don't really explain why he's here in the first place. But either way, a woman is found dead, and then we cut to Gambit, who's, thieving. He's doing his thieving, and I was like, "Oh, is this like really early Gambit or something?"
This is Gambit after. So it's from what we can tell from the story. I guess Gambit and Rogue are on a break.
Yeah, they're either on a break or she broke up with him.
Yeah, and so he's like, I guess, taking some time away from the X-Men mansion, and he's like, kind of back to his old ways a little.
Well, no, this is him. Okay, so this is actually him in the mansion.
Oh yeah, this
he's
part.
doing the danger room. He sets up a scenario where he's like, I guess, reliving his old days, and then Rogue catches him. So I think he's trying to like kind of have a fun game where he's like, I'm gonna see if I could steal stuff again, like, but just in the danger room. And then Rogue shows up, and then we tussle, and I feel like it's old times or whatever. And then like, and so yeah, basically he does that. He has the danger room. He breaks into a safe. Then Rogue shows up and is like, always a thief, sugar. And then like, and I love this also. Jeff Loeb did a really good job writing their accents in, just like the show had them.
Yeah.
And so I could read them in those accents
easily. I think this one was required that you read Gambit in that Cajun voice. Like if you didn't, I don't know how you're reading it.
Yeah, he's all like, "Oh, Cher, I don't remember you done dying." like I don't remember giving you the choice. Like, like just the way that he talks, you have to read it like that. But then like, so at the beginning, we don't know that this is a fake out. We don't know it's in the danger room. So you just see him breaking into the safe, him fighting Rogue as she appears and catches him. And she's like, "Oh, you're evil again," or whatever. And he's like, "No, baby." And then like they fall out of a window. Then he's like, "Oh, it's time to go," or whatever. And then like she disappears as part of the hologram, as the rest of the city disappears and everything as well.
Yeah.
And it's find out, oh, he's in the danger room. So basically, he finds out. I believe the reason why he goes to England, although I'm not sure if they actually say this at the very beginning in this scene, but he goes to England because one of his loves, one of the women he met like back in the day, died.
Yeah, that's one of the people that gets murdered. Is one. I guess they kind of have like a little like a romancy kind of thing.
Well, they do. It's like a cop that caught him stealing when he was really young, and she's like, "You're from France?" He's like, "No, shit, I'm Cajun."
I'm Cajun.
That's like a big thing in this. Every time someone stops him, like, "You're French?" And he's like, "No, I'm Cajun." Like, and I'm like, I don't think Cajuns sound that much like French people, but okay, whatever. And so he, I guess, hears that his lady friend was killed, and I don't know what their relationship was. I don't think they were like boyfriend, girlfriend, or anything. I think he was just like, "Hey, that cop that let me go that one time," and then we kind of had
at least a flirty fling,
flirty fling or something. She died, and so he heard about it, and it's like killer at large. He's reading the newspaper on the plane, and that's where you discover, oh, that's how that's why he's going here. I like that they don't even tell you why he's going to at first. You just like,
he's on a plane.
Also, he's smoking on a plane, or he wants to smoke on a plane. He's like, why is this stupid cigarette sign not turning off? We've already taken off. And he's like, oh, I need a cigarette. And it felt really good to have a character in a book be kind of true to themselves and not just PC about cigarettes. I don't know. I like Wolverine that smokes, personally. I'm
not a big smoker, but I mean,
I never when I was a kid was I like Wolverine smokes. I also need to smoke.
It was just like to see him with a big cigar in his mouth.
You're just like
What's up, bub?
Yeah, you're just like, that's him or whatever. I don't know. That just fits the character. So I get it, but I also hate it. I'm like, I wish we could have characters that are, I don't know, in the same vein as X-Men.
Maybe you secretly do want to smoke because you like that, and then you like Constantine. He's always got a cigarette.
See, but Constantine's not in the kid realm, so he always smokes. He never has not smoked. So except when they made a toy of him, they made a toy and he couldn't have a cigarette.
Couldn't have a cigarette. What did he have in his hand?
Nothing.
But
his hand was ready for a cigarette. Like it was just.
It was in that pose.
So you could just
make a
that's what I did. I rolled a piece of paper and made a cigarette for him.
Nice.
So we did have a cigarette when I made it. So, but yeah. So anyway, back to the comic at hand. Gambit's going there because of this. He's on the plane, trying to figure out who killed this girl. And so there's actually 5 girls that have been killed, and one of them. They don't have names in the files. They're just called like file number 1, file number 2, file number 3, file number 4, and file number 5. And number 5 is the girl that he knew. So
that's the only one we know. Is her name is Alexandria.
Yeah. And so he's like, oh my God, I can't believe they killed her. And so as he's in he gets to London, he looks in these files at the police station. He breaks in, and it's Scotland Yard, of course. So he breaks into Scotland Yard, and of course, he gets caught. Like, they're like, what are you doing in here? And he throws one of his cards. And I thought this was funny. I'm like, everybody knows about the X-Men, right? Like, this is a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just like in upstate New York.
No, that's across the pond. We have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. That's what it kind of make it seem like, because the guy's like, who could this be? Who could throw this electrified card at me? That or power card or whatever the fuck he does, charged card. I would think he would be like Gambit. Obviously, did that because that's what Gambit does. But maybe they don't know in England. I don't know. In the 90s, did you guys have the internet in England? I don't know. Or newspapers. But yeah, so he goes out trying to find who's killing these people. He's riding around on a motorcycle. And he's so cool. He looks so cool. He's got his John Lennon glasses on, as every character in the 90s did. He also looks like a young Jeremy Irons, which I was like, hell yeah, looking suave as fuck there. And so he's like going to talk to the parents of people, the daughters that were dying or that died. This is where we find out that he knew the girl Alexandria, and he goes to talk to her parents, and they're like, wait, you said you were Cajun? And so like maybe she mentioned it to him to them, but and just said, oh, he's a Cajun person or something I was slightly involved with or whatever. Yeah. But then she's dead, and they're like, huh. And so, sorry.
No, I was just saying that's kind of when we get the backstory a little bit, because we're like, oh, okay, so how did he end up meeting her, and what?
Why does he care so much about it?
Yeah.
And then also, we're like, who is the killer? Now Gambit's on the case. But as you can see from the beginning, we're like, oh, Wolverine's the killer, apparently. And so...
Yeah, why? But why is Wolverine?
But why is Wolverine the killer? Is he brainwashed, or is, Lady Deathstrike
the beast inside?
Is the beast out? And I think that's why they kind of make it seem like that could be what it is, So that's why I was like, this must be around the time when he's, gone feral or something, and that's the issue. So... or maybe come back from being feral. I don't know. So anyway, he's stalking the rooftops, looking in the area, trying to find women walking by themselves so that he can see who's the killer and then save them. And then he sees a woman walking. He's like, they never learn, walking at night or whatever. And then he's thinking that to himself. He's also talking about wanting a cigarette real bad, which I appreciate. And then he jumps down to try to save her, just because he thinks, oh, I'm gonna tell her, hey, you should get out of here because the Ripper's about. And then all of a sudden he sees it's a setup because the lights turn on, and then the woman turns around and says, police, get your hands up. So now the guy that he stole the file from is like, I knew you'd be around. And so he punches Gambit in the face and knocks him out, potentially. But then on the next page we see he's like, you got a lucky punch. And then he charges his cards, starts attacking the cops, which is always fun. Throws his cards, jumps over the cop cars and everything. And then we see Wolverine shows up. He's snicked it. and he's fighting who he thinks is the bad guy that the cops are chasing. He's got blood on his claws. I don't know why, but he doesn't realize it's Gambit because Gambit hasn't been smoking, so he doesn't smell the tobacco.
Yeah. And
he's like, "Oh, I didn't. You quit smoking?" And then like there's like a pause where they look at each other as he's like, "What are you doing?" And then he's like, "Oh, you've been going out without tobacco, Cajun? Like I didn't think it was you, Gambit." And then like everybody's like, "Wolverine," and then but Wolverine's got blood all over him, so. It's like, what?
Yeah, why are you covered in blood?
Yeah, what's going on? And they're like, Gambit's like, explain the blood. And he's like, I can't. I don't know what happened.
I don't even know why I'm in London.
Yeah. I don't even know how I came to be in London in the first place. So, and, and if you're looking to me to say I had nothing to do with those women killing, I can't. Like, he doesn't know if he's killed them or not. So that's why it's kind of weird. Like, is Wolverine and his... Like, why would he not even know if he's killing these women or whatever? Maybe his mind's been fucked with recently or something that we don't know about in the main continuity. I don't know. But we can assume that he's gone through some shit. And, obviously they're just sitting there as they jumped over the police cars. They didn't kill any of the police, so...
No, so the police are just standing there watching while they're talking.
Or they, like, went down a slight alley and then paused to say, like, hey, what's going on? And then, like, the police obviously show up. They're like, surrender now! And then we see... We see this what's going on from cameras on the street,
and watching.
Yeah, somebody's watching, and it's obviously the guy who's the killer because his writing, like the I guess it'd be like the scratch that he wrote as Jack the Ripper is kind of like the way he talks and everything. So we know it's this guy, and it's weird. He says like a bit of poetry. I guess it's something that Jack the Ripper said, but like he's like, I'm not a butcher, I'm not a kid. Nor yet a foreign skipper, which I guess he's like, I'm not some like, guy from elsewhere.
No, yeah.
I am a Londoner or whatever. And then he's like, but I am your own true loving friend, yours truly. And then this guy starts laughing like, and then, so we don't know who it is, but, it seems like the Joker. I was like, the Joker's in this book? Like, like the way he's like talking and everything is very much Jokery. But yeah, so then, like we said, the police are about to kill them or get them, and then this woman pulls up, and she's like, "Quick, get in the car!" And they're like, "Who the fuck is this woman?" But they don't know who she is, but she's helping them, I guess. And so we find out her name is Martinique, which is a very weird, hard name to say. At first, I'd never seen that name before, and she is like working for Nick Fury. She says,
"Yeah, she says she's with Interpol and she's a friend of Nick Fury."
Yeah, and she's like, "Get in the car. Nick said you needed help, so jump in." And she looks exactly like Talia al Ghul. So I was also confused because I was like, Talia, Joker, Talia,
what's going on?
What's going on? Is this a crossover with DC or whatever? So, but yeah, so they get in the car with her, and they drive away. Then this issue was great.
Then it's car chase.
It's a fucking car chase for like more than half the issue, and I thought it was like it moved fantastically. They're talking the whole time. Also, one thing this thing does well, this comic. I mean I've said this in previous episodes about Marvel comics, specifically the Chris Claremont Wolverine issues we did, or that run we did, but when Marvel has to do their Marvel thing and they're like, let's explain everything going on and every character in this every issue.
Let us remind you, Wolverine's the best at what he does.
Yeah, because every issue is someone's first issue, and I get the sentiment, but there are ways to do that are better than others. And I thought Chris Claremont's was a bit heavy-handed and a bit annoying sometimes, whereas Jeff Loeb, he did it in the middle of this action sequence. He didn't do it at the beginning while, we don't even know what's happening, and now I got to read the same fucking thing, over and over and over again on the first page. No, he did it in the middle of this action sequence, this card chase, while Remy's like throwing, or Gambit is like throwing his cards and shit's blowing up and all this cool shit. He's like, Remy LeBlanc, blah, 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 blah.
Remy LeBlanc.
Remy LeBlanc was born with a mutant ability to kinetically charge matter and release it on impact. So you do get like, oh, his little thing, and he's like his trademark playing cards become a devastating weapon. And so like they just set it up nicely in the middle of this card chase. So it didn't seem like annoying or out of place. I'm like, that's how you do it. Not now. I get Chris Claremont is obviously like fantastic writer. We've read a lot of his stuff that I've liked, like Days of Future Past and what was the other one? The God Loves Man Kills.
Yeah,
and,
that was
and that was
story.
fantastic. So I'm not hitting on him necessarily, but he's got that old school writer where they were literally just like, just throw it on the first page, like, and then we'll get to the rest of the story or whatever. So that's kind of what it felt like in that. In this, they did a really good job. I thought Jeff Loeb knocked it out of the park on how you do kind of that Marvel method thing where every comic's someone's first comic. So, but yeah. So anyway, this, like I said, this police chase goes on for more than half the comic until finally Martinique steps on the gas and jumps off of a bridge with this car, and it falls in the water. And then the cops are like, nobody can survive that. And I'm like, but they're X-Men. He's got a healing factor.
Yeah.
Wolverine can't drown, I don't think, like he would just continue to die. Like just keep being on the brink of death, as his body drowns.
He like suffocates and then wakes up and he suffocates again.
That's kind of what I imagine what would happen. So, but yeah, basically they're like, let's wait and make sure the bodies don't come up and then we'll walk away. Then apparently, I don't know why, there is a cavern, sewer under the water.
There's like under the areas under. I mean, you've seen that under London where they have like
John.
What?
Those areas aren't under the water in the Thames or whatever.
Not under the water. It's supposed to be like maybe it's to the side.
But they went into the. Oh, so you're saying that they crashed in the water and then swam,
and then they came up into the little alcove area. Yeah.
So where the refuse discharges into the Thames directly.
Exactly.
So where everybody's shit just washes into the.
Basically,
they crawl into that area, and then we see. So I guess that's what happened. They don't really show.
No.
They're just like you can figure out. Now we're in a sewer.
I put it together.
John put it together very easily in his head. And that's what I was saying. This one actually, I put it together too when I first read it, but now that we're going through it again, I'm kind of questioning some of these things. But like, I also didn't question this when I read it. So that's what I'm saying. Like this book has the 90s, not quite everything makes sense.
But you just go with it.
But you go with it. I appreciate that. It's good enough writing that you're like, hey, I'm on board. It's fun. We just had a badass car chase. And, they're in the sewer now. I don't know how they got there, but water, okay? Water.
Yeah, there's water.
Obviously, water comes from pipes. Therefore, pipes are by the water. Therefore, you can get into a pipe from the water. And now you're in the sewer. Ergo. And other words like that. So
yes.
Philosophy, people. It's all philosophy. Anyway, so as they're like lighting up this sewer, they see the woman is dead. Martinique has been injured, and she's bleeding out on the ground, but it looks like she was stabbed. And so Gambit's like, why did you do it, man? What are you he goes, why'd you do it, Logan? Are you that much? Well, now I'm saying it like an English person. How do you read it? Read it, John. Read it in your...
Why'd you do that, Logan?
Yeah.
Are you that much of an animal?
Are you that much of an animal?
Is there nothing left of you, man?
Is there nothing left of you, man? Yeah.
Don't push your luck, bub.
And so, they make it seem like Wolverine stabbed her somehow. I don't know. But, like, Wolverine's like, nah, this isn't right. Like, this Martinique seems to be dead, but there's something wrong with my senses. Something's missing. And so, Wolverine got his, like, sniffing sense or whatever. So he's like, something's wrong. They blow a hole in the sewer, I guess.
In the wall, I guess, to get out of the area.
Yeah, I guess to be like, hey, something's over there. They actually say like something's in this area or something. You want to, like, let's go there. I can smell it. So they break through that area, and they actually go into the sewer proper. Because I guess this was just like the outside ledge. I don't know. And once again, wherever the fuck this is, and so. They jump into the sewer, which was disgusting. I don't know.
Yeah, it was very.
Remy just jumps headfirst in, like they're all opening their mouths and shit and everything, and of course, Gambit gets knocked out as he's like jumps in. I guess he didn't realize it was only 3 feet deep or whatever.
Yeah,
just,
he hit a pipe on the way in or something.
But Wolverine has to save him. So right there, Wolverine's not the bad guy or whatever, and so he saves Gambit, even though they kind of had a fight, and then and he's like, "Oh, I didn't want to have to give you mouth to mouth." And then, like they go through the whole system That's what they make it seem like, at least. They walk through the whole system, and then they're like, back to the same place we started, except the body's gone. But there's blood. There's blood there. So you're like, wait.
Yeah, so something isn't adding up, obviously.
Yeah, something's not right. And so then she appears, and she's alive. And like I said, she looks exactly like Talia al Ghul. So I was very much like, wait. Wait, no. This isn't a DC book. This is a Marvel book. Because she does like the pose and everything. Her hair is over the eye, and oh man, looks exactly like Talia al Ghul. And so then Wolverine is like, nah, that's not her, and he just like starts knifing into her and slits her throat, and like even like stuff comes out of her mouth or whatever. But I'm assuming it's like an alien where it's just milk or something.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
like an alien's like the androids when it's like all milk.
They're full of milk or whatever. And Gambit doesn't realize. He's like, Logan, no. Yeah, and then like Wolverine's like, and he just like slices her open, and then they're like, oh my god, it was a robot. Then we cut to that lair of the bad guy, and he's watching all this on. He's got cameras everywhere, and like really good cameras, like at different angles, and everything. He's got 40 different screens, all of different sizes, which I thought was fun as well. And they're just all different angles from behind, the side. Zoom in, zoom out, 4K. It's all there. And then we see
this is in the 90s.
Yeah, this is the 90s. So he's talking. He's like he's all happy and everything. He's like, "This is rich, ha ha ha, rich, rich, rich." And then then he's like, "Hey, Martinique, you really ought to come out and enjoy the show." And then you're like, "Wait a second, Martinique?
What?
Why is she in this bad guy's lair?" I'm assuming maybe that's what he was smelling like. The lair is close by because she was. I don't know if she was this one or if that was a robot. If she was the real
the
one,
original one, yeah.
And then
we don't really get the 100% on that.
We don't know, but there was blood on the ground, so that's why I'm kind of like I don't know. But basically, we find out Martinique is part of the bad guys. We find out that the main bad guy is a dude named Arcade, who is a lot like the Joker and maybe the Riddler put together. I don't know. And then he's got a bow tie. He kind of looks like the Riddler, but then he's got like a fucked up face. He kind of looks like Two-Face.
Yeah, he's got like a Two-Face face thing going on.
Yes, I'm comparing these to DC villains because that's what I read mostly. So, and then her, I guess she is taking on. This might be her first appearance as well. I guess her father, who died, she took his name, and so Martinique is actually a person named Mastermind. She says.
Yeah. And we find out her power. She's got like a little bit of telekinesis, and like she can get into people's minds and mess with them a little bit.
Yeah. So what I was thinking, is the first Martinique was her, and she was showing blood like on the ground and stuff, and like making them think she was dead, like with her powers.
Probably.
Then they leave. Then a robot came and attacked them. And that's how she. And
that's part of that's part of the that's Arcade's part where it's like games.
Yes, exactly. And that's how she got away. That's why she's back at the lair and whatever. So, probably. Yes. So that's what I'm thinking. Obviously, they don't explain that 100% because we're having to piece this together ourselves, just like a true '90s comic. And so they don't want to hold your hand too much. And so yeah. So anyway, then we cut to Gambit. He's breaking into a safe again, and this is like this is the past.
Yeah, this is when he met the cop he knew, yes,
Alexandra. And so we get like the little story of how they met. This is like a young Gambit. He still looks the same, but he's not part of the X-Men yet. I'm assuming this is when he was still doing his crimes.
I really like the way that these panels are when they're telling his story because they all look like cards falling on the pages.
Yeah, like his text bubbles or whatever, his narration.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, and so, but like the way that they draw him jumping out of the house and just the dynamics of it is really good too. Once again, Tim Sale, fantastic artist. And so then he gets caught by this woman, and they're like, "Hey, you're the thief that's been stealing the last like 30 nights or whatever or something." He's like, "No, I was just doing this one night. It's just this one thing." And they're like, he's like, "See, like look at my pocket or whatever." And she like locks him up or whatever, but then he is able to escape because she actually like she believes him, and he's like, "What's your name?" And she's like, kind of charmed by his Cajunness.
Oh, are you French?
He's like, no, I'm Cajun.
No, Cajun.
Cheryl. And so yeah. So basically, he's like, I was stealing. What does he actually steal? He's like,
something that was already stolen. Like
that's what it was. He says
it.
it's a painting that was acquired by this guy that was actually stolen from a family from the Nazis, and so it's like a Nazi painting, or it's a stolen painting from the Nazis that ended up in this dude's collection that he's gonna steal and bring back to the original family or something. So he's like, I swear, I'm a good guy. I'm stealing a painting from Nazi people for the good people or whatever. And so she's like, all right, you still broke the law, but like I might go easy.
For some reason,
yeah,
I trust you.
And so that's like she handcuffs him, and he's like, hold on a second. She walks away, and then like then she comes back, and the handcuffs are empty because he's Gambit or whatever. He probably could have just charged him and like tapped him on the wall, and they would
explode.
Yeah. But anyway, so then she's like kind of waiting for him. He says like
basically he can help her find the person who
he's like,
has
if you let me go, I'll help you find the people. Believe me, I will call you later on or whatever. I'll get in touch with you. And so she's just waiting by the phone, like, come on, I believe you. You can't let me down. Like, how'd you get out of the handcuffs anyway, kind of thing. And so then we see like her boss is the same cop from the future where that was trying to capture him and Wolverine and stuff. So then we see him, and I don't know how he does this. He sneaks into the office even though the captain is looking at her desk as well as her. But he slips in and is able to drop a card with his phone number or whatever. Or he says, meet at this pier at this time. And so they're meeting there, and the chief is like, I can't believe you talked me into this. Like, why would we trust this guy? He's obviously the thief. I can't believe you fell for it, you rookie. Now I'm going to get in trouble, and I'm not going to get my promotion. You're not going to get your promotion. Because she's like, I guess just a regular policewoman now, and a police person, whatever they call it, officer. There you go, police officer. And then she's supposed to become an inspector if they can catch this guy or whatever. And he's supposed to become whatever,
like chief, basically.
Chief, yeah, I don't know. And so they're like, he's freaking out because they're not there. Then we see this young woman running, and I'm not sure if this is supposed to be. They say her name is Yukio. I don't know if this is the same Yukio as Wolverine.
I don't know. Like,
I mean, that's one of the only confusing things. I'm like, why would you name two Japanese people in a comic? Because later on, Wolverine has a flash because she's like corrupting his mind, and he's talking about like being in Japan with Yukio, and I'm like,
she doesn't look the same though, so that's only.
Oh no, is it Mariko that he's with over in that one, or is it a different?
Oh, it is Mariko. You're
okay,
right.
So that's why I got confused. But Yukio is in a Wolverine comic.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Okay, because that's why I was confused. She's also in the old Wolverine comic. There's Mariko and Yukio. They're both in that comic.
They're in the Wolverine.
In the Wolverine miniseries from Chris Claremont and Frank Miller. And so that's why I was getting confused. I'm like, is this supposed to be that Yukio? But I don't know if it is. I don't think it is necessarily. There's no reason why it should be. So I don't think she was a thief or anything. So, but anyway, as she's running, I guess Gambit knew she was going to be on the docks, and she's like going to get out of here. She's going to meet a boat or something. And she's running with a bag full of loot, of course. I was like, why is she having
that's where you got to put your stuff. You hold it in a brown sack.
Yeah, a brown sack in front of you while you're running full blast, not paying attention to the front, what's in front of you. And then so a card flies out of nowhere, hits her leg. And, of course, it's like London, so it's all foggy, right? So she doesn't see the cops at the end of the pier. And then she trips. The jewels and everything that she's stolen over the last 30 days falls out of the sack into the police officers' feet, or at their feet, and then it all wraps up. They're like, oh my God, he was right. He was just stealing that painting because he's a nice guy. This is the actual thief. So they they arrest her, and then we see Gambit is waiting on a rooftop the following night, and I guess he told her to meet him there, and she's like, I'm glad we got her or whatever, and thanks for the help, basically. And he's like, no problem, detective. And then she's like, I'm definitely gonna make detective now because of this, and thank you so much. And and my boss might even make Inspector or whatever. And so basically, then they have a passionate kiss on the roof.
Oh, it's fine. This is one of my favorite parts because she's like, all right, that's good. And while there's some sexual tension with us, believe me, Buster, you're still a thief. I'm still a cop. There's nothing here. And he's like, oh, yeah? Well, allow me to steal one last thing before I go. And then they kiss, and then it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, nobody can escape Gambit's charm.
That Cajun charm. you need it, And so, but then the interesting thing is we thought this was like a memory just showing or something just showing us what happened. But I think this is actually in his head and she's fucking with his head because then she dissolves into a skeleton in his hands and then she dissolves like
into dust,
kind of like Last Crusade, Indiana Jones' Last Crusade.
That's right.
The third last Indiana Jones movie.
What do you mean? The third and the last best Indiana Jones, but not the.
It's not the best Indiana Jones, but it is the third Indiana Jones, which is the last one that they've made.
So. No, the fourth. There's Indiana Jones.
No, there's no fourth.
Name of the Crystal Skull.
It's being made right now, John.
There's a fifth one. Being
that's
made
the
right
fourth
now.
one. John, we've already gone over this. There is not a fourth Indiana Jones yet.
Sure.
Shia
LaBeouf and the Rough.
No, I don't know who that is. I don't know what you're talking about.
Monkeys leaving from trees.
No, there's no such thing. I don't know where you created this in your head, but it is fake. There was no fourth Indiana Jones movie. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, she dissolved in his hands, and then he's like Wolverine because he sees like the shadow of Wolverine, and then he's like, Logan, I'm coming for you. When this is over, only one of us will be coming out alive. And so then we see there's like. We cut back to the what's it called the lair of the bad guys or whatever, and they're like laughing and ha 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 and blah blah. Then it seems like Wolverine, we get like a flash of what he's thinking in his head.
Yeah. Well, no, that was the thing. Is like he's like, oh man, you're amazing mastermind. Like I can't believe you could do any of this stuff. And she's like, oh please, you flatter me. Like.
So is he showing him the illusion of that?
I think she's showing him the illusions as they're happening, I guess, in their heads or whatnot.
Oh, okay. So she can show two people the same thing?
I guess. She said she can mix like memories and then like with like she can create like a narrative within that too.
Okay. There you go. So she can like read minds to know the history of a character.
Yeah.
Whatever, I guess. So okay. So she did that to Gambit, and then now she's going to do it to Wolverine. We see Wolverine. He's in Japan, and he's like, "What? What's going on? Like, I didn't know I could have this much happiness in the world." And he's like, "I'm holding Mariko in my arms, and feels like I have all the time in the world, and yet." And then like it shows them, and they're in bed. They just made love. He's like, "I'm finally happy," and then he's like, something ain't right. Something's in the air. And he like
smell something.
Yeah, so he gets up and she's like, Logan, please don't go. And he's like, Mariko-san.
I mean, yeah, they even have like the translation. It shows it in like the
brackets
and
whatever,
it's like translated from Japanese.
Yeah,
like they're like so
yeah,
they
no shit, we get it.
Yeah, and she's like Logan-san, and he's like, it's okay, Mariko-san.
Yeah. And so he goes out because he thinks there's someone that's gonna hurt them.
He knows someone.
And then all of a sudden, an energized staff flies out of nowhere, and he's like, "Ugh, Gambit, you son of a bitch!" And then this is where Gambit's like, "The blood, that's what this is all about, Logan. The blood, all of the women you killed back in London, them ghosts will haunt both of us forever." Like like he's just, I don't know, he's being some crazy, weird, like version of Gambit or whatever. And then this is where we find like Wolverine goes crazy, beats the fuck out of Gambit, and actually like snicks and then stabs Gambit, and you're like, holy fuck, he went crazy, and he like actually stabbed Gambit for real because they're like fighting in his. And I don't know if this is in his head or if they're in like a cell fighting each other.
I think it's just in his head.
Okay, I think it's in both of their heads because like at the end of this, they're both like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's true. He's like, you're not dead.
Yeah, and this is funny. This is like also Arcade is watching all this on like a VR headset that she's showing this to, I guess. So he's like ahead of time here. He's got a VR headset.
Yeah, he's got 40 screens on every.
That's true.
Yeah,
very, very much. So anyway, they're fighting, and then that's the end of that issue. And then like we come back and we find out there's like we see this page where there's like multiple Wolverines. So this is kind of like the what you call it, like the spoiler, I guess, or like the hint that hey, maybe there's something going
else,
on. And so we've already seen one robot, so maybe there's two or more robots. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, we see that Wolverine has been captured and he's in the lair, and then this is like they're all in. What's you call it? They're all in the like a box, or they're all in prison.
It looks like a padded cell, and this is where we get kind of like, because Mastermind is like, she's doing this because she's working with Arcade, and Arcade's like got like a little bit of ulterior motive, because he's saying that basically Wolverine stopped him from saving his love.
And fucked up his face.
And
like, they're giving the motive of Arcade. Like apparently Arcade was the mastermind of this. Is kind of what they. I shouldn't say Mastermind because her name's Mastermind. Yeah. So he is using Mastermind like to facilitate this revenge against Wolverine, because Wolverine, at least at the beginning of this issue, he's saying that Wolverine, like while his love named Locke was dying, Wolverine fucked up his face and he wasn't able to save her.
Yeah.
So she died, and that's why he's doing this. So. This was a little convoluted. I did have a hard time figuring this out exactly. Me and John had to talk about it before we did this, and then we figured, oh, that's what happened. So you can figure it out on your own. Just, it's a little hard to follow somewhat. But anyway, Wolverine wakes up from that dream where they fought or whatever, and it turns out I think they actually fought in their heads, but also in the real world. But Wolverine knew that it was not real. So he pulled his claws, he pulled his punch with the claws at the end. So he didn't actually stab Gambit, but it turns out both of them are in a cell and in Arcade's castle, or not castle, in the sewer, I guess, where he's got his
wherever his lair is.
His lair. There you go. And so Gambit looks like he's been stabbed, and of course we just saw him get stabbed in the last issue. He's like, "Come on, you're not dead. We ain't in Japan. Get up, Cajun." Like it's getting weird out there. And so they both wake. He's like, "Oh man, that was crazy. I thought you stabbed me." And he's like, "No." And this is where he says like you went crazy, and I thought you were going full animal or whatever. And he's like, "Not yet, bub."
Yeah, he's like, "No," and I knew it wasn't you because he didn't
smell
smoking,
tobacco.
Yeah.
So he smelled tobacco, and that was the weird thing. Is I guess she didn't know that he had quit smoking the last 10 days.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Tobacco. That ain't my Gambit."
Yeah.
And so, so they are now in the lair. I guess that's how they get here, because I guess they would have never found it, right, if they hadn't brought them here?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because they just cut from, like, the last issue was literally those 2 dream sequences, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So they don't even show you how they get into this area. They're just captured.
No, they just get captured.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting way to show how they get to the lair. It's like, hey, why don't we just bypass them having to figure out how we get?
I mean, I think maybe it's something because she made them believe or whatever that they were, maybe like the car wreck, like when they got hit or something, and because that's when it all starts going weird.
Yes.
So maybe that's they got hit in the heads.
I guess, yeah. And so also in this room there is also one of the robots. I guess the one that they killed earlier. Is that what they? Okay, hold on a second. Are they saying that? At the end of the see, this is how confusing this is, or convoluted a little bit. So are they saying that at the end of the issue where they were in the sewer, they came back and it was like a maze, that ends right there, right? Where they're standing and there was a robot that they killed. Mm-hmm. Did then she just fucked with their minds and they got captured right there? And now they're back?
I think so. That it makes it seem like,
oh, okay, that makes more sense. I didn't read it like that though. I didn't put 2 and 2 together that the dream sequences from both of them
they were already captured.
Yeah, I didn't get that they were that's them being captured right there.
Yeah,
like she put them in a trance and then they like boop and brought them back to their lair.
Yep.
And then that makes more sense. But like I didn't get that, because you know why it is. It would have been if they started. I get why they didn't, because they didn't. They wanted to end with that stabbing scene, but they maybe could have done it where. Because the Gambit story is like feels like, oh, we're just in a flashback of Gambit. It didn't feel like it's a fake thing. Whereas the Wolverine one, I'm like, oh, it's a fake thing because he's in Japan, and that's weird. There's no reason to show him in Japan, and then him fighting Gambit. You could then maybe show him begin to fight Gambit, and then cut back to Gambit or something. His little flash, what he had seen or something, and then the stab. Like the stab is what they wanted at the end of the third issue, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they did it in that order. But I don't know. It could have been a little bit better. But yeah, this makes sense now. They're on that edge, I guess. I guess they were on that edge, or they're still on. No, are they still on the edge?
I can tell if they're there in the sewer.
I think they're in a cell. I think they're in a cell because they just brought that robot with them. So the robot that looks like Martinique is with them in this cell, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you charge her up, Gambit? Throw her into the wall, and that'll blow a hole in the wall." So they do that, and that works. And then now they're in the lair. And of course, they
and Wolverine's got Martinique's real scent now. Like everything seems to be coming together.
Yes, and then as they're running through the halls, all of a sudden, Wolverines come out to attack them, and they're robot Wolverines. And Wolverine, the real one, dispatches of them quite quickly. He's like, "You sons of bitches! You're the ones who framed me.
I'm the only Wolverine."
So he goes crazy, and this is where Gambit's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "No." And like he's like, "Oh my god, he looks like an animal or whatever." And I'm like, "Calm down. He's just mad. He's just Wolverine mad."
His eyes are red.
Yeah, but Wolverine mad. And so then as they come into the lair, the main lair where all the TVs are and everything, they see Mastermind and Arcade. They're actually fighting because she's like, "I want the truth, Arcade. What happened?" And because it seems like he'd been hiding what actually happened between him and Locke and what's going on and why Wolverine is here basically. Yeah, and so she's like, "I'll invade your mind if involuntarily if you don't tell me," and then he's like, "Don't you understand, girl? They've escaped." And then she kind of like astral projects or whatever and like sees them behind her, and then Wolverine grabs his hair and is like, "Hey, bub, give me one reason why I shouldn't just kill you right now." And of course, Gambit's like, "Hey there, Logan, calm down." And so,
yeah,
I imagine he just sounds like a Cajun version of Jean-Claude Van Damme because he's French. So
yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, they're like trying to figure out. He lets him go. He's like, "You're lucky, buddy," and then she attacks all of them at once, trying to make them all stop and figure out why. Like she basically spoils why Arcade did this to everybody, and she's like, "I do not appreciate being taken advantage of, you fucker," and my father or the disgust I share for them is the same as my father's, but you took advantage of me, and partners shouldn't do that, and so. Basically, we're going to find out what actually happened between Arcade and his love, Locke. She says, Wolverine didn't kill those 5 women. You captured him and framed him for the murders. And so then we see what happened. So it's a weird, I don't know what the game was.
Well, that's the thing, is Arcade likes to play games. And I guess he and Locke were, kind of playing, psycho murder games crazy.
Is it like they needed a safe word or something?
I guess I imagine it's like someone running around.
It could be that he calls it a game and he was just.
Well, no, because he says they've done it before.
Oh, okay.
And this time it just got out of hand. What
I mean is she looks angry in some of these panels, so I'm thinking maybe they're having a fight and he's calling it a game, and it's not the first fight they've had.
It's possible.
And maybe he just. Actually, she goes to kill him with a knife, and then he ends up killing her, stabbing her with a knife, and then he's like, in order to cover that up, he used Wolverine. He he made Wolverine automatons that would kill other women, then dumped Locke on the street as well as part of those killings. So then it made it look like she was just a random killing from this new Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
Who is Wolverine.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's it. That's the whole fucking thing. And she's like, as for like she's mad now because she's part of this. She's part of the killing of these women, and she's like, I can't believe I worked with Arcade and he did that. And he's like, the blood is on my hands of these women and it will haunt me forever. And then she says that as Gambit's like, stop, and he tries to throw a card at her, but she just vanishes. And she makes it seem like because they're like women that got killed, she's like extra hurt, because it's like, like you men will not understand as I can, kind of thing. And then she makes the fog happen, like fog everywhere, and then disappears, kind of like a Mask of the Phantasm style. But then as they take the arcade to the police station and explain everything, and then.
I did laugh. She's like, she won't forget, but neither will Arcade.
Yes. And then we see as Arcade is in his, cell, he's like in his loony bin or whatever, or psychiatric ward, I should say. More PC, I guess. And he's in the crazy house, and he's constantly in his mind looking at Miss Locke and all the women he's killed for this, and they're always in there haunting him in this hotel because he looks like a busboy or something. So, and I don't know if he's got like blood all over him. So I don't know if it's just like their blood or like he's kind of reliving the incident.
Something. But yeah, basically he's having to relive it over and over.
Yeah.
See the faces of all the women he killed.
Yeah. And then Wolverine and Gambit kind of have like, I guess we should go back to America now that we figured this out. And Gambit's like, I'm really happy it wasn't you, Logan.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're okay and there's actually nothing wrong with you and you're not going savage.
Yeah. Like, don't worry about it. I could understand. I could understand where you're coming from. So yeah, basically they just have like a moment where they both smoke together. Hell yeah. And then he's like, I thought you gave those up. He's like, not today, Cher. So yeah, that's the end of this one. I had a blast reading this. This was a really fun. I know it sounds like we were confused because we were, but we also had a fun time reading it.
That's like going back, just making sure like the story, like
it makes sense for you guys
together. Because like reading that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get the gist of it. Like that was fun. Like,
yeah.
It was It was a very.
Let's just say I didn't question too hard. I was just like, yeah, sure, makes sense.
Exactly,
makes sense enough for that I'm satisfied with that story. Had a blast. The art was great. The story was fun.
The things we question now together were not things I questioned when I read it.
Yeah, I was questioning. Okay. But the reason why we're doing this now is because we're trying to make it make sense for y'all. So so if we want to make sure you guys understand what actually happened in this story and not just
because we totally get it.
Yeah, we totally get it now. Now that we talked about it for like an hour and we hashed this 4-issue series out, we totally understand. And so yeah. But on that note, John, what would you give this one?
So I'm definitely on board of the team of Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Definitely am like, I want to kind of just probably read everything that they did together because they're always fun. Maybe it takes a little bit sometimes like we just did now to go back through and make sure we piece it together correctly. But it made sense. It was a fun read. The art is fantastic. I loved everything about it. It made me feel like a kid basically reading this one.
Yes. It definitely put me in that like, hey, I'm fucking 6 years old again mindset. Yeah. And I went to the comic store and found my favorite character Gambit and my other favorite character Wolverine, and they're in a book together.
What? Yeah. I'm picking that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was fun. So with that being said, it was not. It's short, so it's definitely a quick read. Anybody can pick again. Yeah, if you like X-Men, pick this one up. It's a quick, fun read. There's no, you don't have to put much time or effort into this one at all.
No, it's just great. It's just a fun read.
And, so it's nothing like amazing. It's just a quick, fun story. But I loved it. I think I'm going to give this one, I'm leaning here because I'm feeling like your scale and my scale, but I'm like, I just do how I feel.
Yeah.
It's an 8.
It's an 8. Oh, I like that. It is not an 8 for me, but it was fun. I had a blast, and I'm totally going to try to find this in hardcover and have it in my collection because I really, really enjoyed it. And because of that, I'm going to give it a 6.5. I know you hate my points, but because I can't give it a 7. Like a 7.
Why can't you give it a 7?
A 7 to me is there's got to be a little something. Like maybe if the story made full hardcore sense or whatever.
It did. We just
had. You're right. We were the ones who made it convoluted in our minds. So yeah, I just feel like, a 7, 8. Oh no, you know what? You're right.
Yes,
You're right.
That's right.
You've convinced me. A 7, I will give it a 7 because an 8, 9, 10 is like groundbreaking, above average, like way above average. This is just above average, and I don't know if it necessarily deserves above average, but it deserves it from me because I had a fun time reading it. Like I said, it transported me back to my childhood, and that's what comics should do. They should make you have fun reading them. They shouldn't you should be able to read them at any time and have a blast. Whether you're 30, 40, 50, or 10, or 6. Or
that's one thing I'll say. I don't want to get too politically and stuff, but like I know a lot of the comics now, like there's still a lot of good comics that are coming out, but a lot of comics now are getting a little more PC and a little more, like, not that comics they've always had social issues in them. They've always touched on things that are going on, but they still break away. They still make you kind of like, maybe,
sometimes you just need to have a good story.
Yeah,
and just a fun time.
Like maybe you question those things, but comics in general, like movie, any art form is supposed to like kind of take you out of maybe reality a little bit.
Example, you got the hard traveling heroes from Green Lantern, Green Arrow, right? That's a pretty political series that everybody points to.
Yeah,
it's 25 issues long. It's part of the Green Lantern run where not every issue, and then also not every issue in that is political, but they have adventures, and then sometimes there's an issue where they're like, and this is a very special issue of Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and we're going to talk about racism or whatever.
Yeah.
So, if you read those at the time, they were trying to be super socially conscious, and if you read those now, they seem kind of racist. So, some parts of it are a little racist now. So it depends. They're well-meaning, obviously. So, but some of the stuff that they're trying to do now, I get. You obviously you want to have representation. You want to have good things like that. You want to make sure, you're covering things that are in the real world, especially if you're like Marvel and you're set in the real world. But at the same time, we also just want to have good, fun stories, and we want to make sure that that's kind of like the priority. The priority should be, hey, we're going to have a good story, and then, hey, what if this is also wrapped into it, that's a real life thing going on kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the only thing, that's what I'm pulling from this, is that this one was like one of those ones is like, I felt like reading, even though it was a quick read, I felt completely taken away from everything I was doing, everything else I was thinking in my life. And you didn't have to
need to know anything going on.
Yeah.
It was just, like, obviously there's stuff going on in the background because we're like, oh, is this Pharaoh Wolverine? What's going on?
Yeah. But none of it really mattered.
It doesn't matter.
You
we
could
can still
read
enjoy
this and still be like, oh man, okay. Like, everybody knows Jack Ripper, so you that kind of obviously feeds.
And even if you didn't, you're like, okay, they explain it. He's a murderer from the 1800s.
Yeah.
Okay, and now there's a new one happening, and then they explain who Gambit is. They don't explain Wolverine because everybody knows who Wolverine is because he's badass. So he's been around for 30 years. Gambit's only probably been around for 3 years at this point. So they're like that's why they give you the Gambit intro or whatever. So there's nothing that really needs any kind of history or background to set this up, and they give you everything you need in it. It's nice, short, concise, and it was just a blast. I had a fun time reading it, which is, like I said, why I'm giving it a 7, which is maybe higher than some people would think it should get. But I mean, it's Tim Sale art. You can't beat that. That's like, to me, anytime he touches pen to page, it's automatically a 9 or a 10. So if you're going with that, the writing lowers it to maybe a 7 or whatever, or because it was fun. So like if it wasn't fun, maybe that'd be different. But like we said, I mean, Jeff Loeb doesn't always hit it out of the park. We didn't like Hush that much because the writing was didn't make any sense, but it was a longer story.
Yeah.
That story is like 9 or 10 issues long. So I'm willing to take kind of a bit of a messy story, but that's fun if it's 4 issues or something. But, Hush was a bit longer. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a really fun one to pick up. I assume it's just called X-Men Gambit Wolverine. I don't know. This one it kept saying Wolverine Victims. It said Victims was like
the subtitle or something.
Subtitle. So I don't know if that was what it was originally called, and that there might be a trade or a hardcover under that or something. But I'd have to look it up. But
we on Comixology,
it's under X-Men Wolverine. Or no, it says X-Men on the top, but it's under Wolverine/Gambit. So if you want to read that, that's how you can read that on Comixology. And next time we're going to be reading the first volume of the manga One Punch Man. So that should be pretty fun. I've heard it's really funny and interesting. So check that one out either beforehand or we will just spoil it for you. Either one. And we'll see you guys on the next one.